Welcome all. Thanks for joining us. Our goal today is to be able to share some information with you, to have some time for Q&A, and also just to have you learn some things about Wild and Scenic and know how to learn more. So that's our goal today. We're hoping we whet your appetite for information that we have through our Wild and Scenic Rivers video series. So if you don't have your lunch in front of you, you might also want to go grab some popcorn or something, because we'll be showing a few short videos as well as having some presentation questions and answers. I'll let Lucy introduce herself, and then Steve will do an introduction and get us started with the program. Lucy?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Lucy Nentwick. I'm currently a fellow with Wild Scenic Rivers and National Trails for the National Park Service, and I'm in the DC office.
Hi everyone, my name is Steve Chesterton. I am the Forest Service Wild and Scenic Rivers National Program Manager, currently also serving as the Wilderness and Wild and Scenic Rivers National Director, and one of the Forest Service representatives on the Interagency Wild and Scenic Rivers Coordinating Council. And also wanted to mention that Nick Kaczor from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who's the Wilderness and Wild and Scenic Rivers National Program Manager and also an Interagency Council member, was involved with the development of today's presentation, but unfortunately got called away today and on other business and won't be able to join us in person. But with that, yeah, appreciate all of you joining, and I wanted to get a little bit of background on the project that we'll be sharing with you today. Origin story of it goes back several years, as we, in collaboration with RMS and the RMS is a river training center, the Interagency Council, which consists of Forest Service, Park Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and Bureau of Land Management representatives, collaborate on the development of trainings, both virtual and in person. And in this instance, there was a certain location where a number of rivers had been proposed, sort of Congress after Congress, for designation, and we thought that there might be a designation soon, and it would be the first Wild and Scenic River designations in that particular place. And so the folks there that would be charged with responsibilities for Wild and Scenic River management, it would be a brand new area for them. And so how do we develop a training that's sort of a crash course of everything you need to know in understandable fashion about Wild and Scenic Rivers? And so we started to build an in-person workshop around that, but then ultimately pivoted to the development of a training video series, recognizing that this could be useful not just in one location that might have some newly designated rivers, but could be useful in a variety of locations, as well as in instances where you might not have a newly designated river, but you might be new to a forest or park or refuge that has a Wild and Scenic River. And so how do you best get up to speed on that, and what your responsibilities are as a river administering agency or a staff member? And so that's where we are today. We worked with RMS to develop this series of short videos, essentially providing a crash course on what it means to manage a Wild and Scenic River. And so with that, I'm gonna turn it back over to Corita to get us started on sharing video, I believe, in that series.
All right, thanks. So we're going to start out sharing the first video. We think this gives kind of that 101 overview. And I'll just let you all know that the video may be a little laggy. I'm going to turn on the closed captioning so that you're able to read the captioning. And we wanted you at least to get your 101 to get started today. And then we will dive into all of the videos and give you an overview of those.
You have a new congressionally designated wild and scenic river on your unit. We're going to take a look at what this means and how your unit can prepare. First, learn about wild and scenic rivers. Designation as a wild and scenic river is the country's strongest form of protection for free-flowing rivers and streams. The Wild and Scenic Rivers Act of 1968 established a national wild and scenic river system to protect and enhance the free flow, water quality, and outstanding natural, cultural, and recreational values of select rivers and their adjacent land areas for the enjoyment of present and future generations. There are 3 kinds of classifications within a wild and scenic river, largely based on the level of river corridor development at the date of designation. Wild rivers are free from impoundments, primitive and unpolluted, and generally inaccessible except by trail. Scenic rivers are free of impoundments, mostly primitive and undeveloped, but accessible in places by roads. Recreational rivers may have undergone some impoundment or diversion in the past, may have some development along their shorelines, and are readily accessible by road or railroad. A wild and scenic river may have 1 or more segments with different classifications. Regardless of classification, each river in the national system must be managed to protect and enhance the values that caused its designation. Now that you have some familiarity with wild and scenic rivers, you can get to know your river. The Wild and Scenic Rivers Act requires land managers to develop a comprehensive river management plan within 3 years of designation. A good GIS map and consideration of the following questions can help you prepare. Have previous studies taken place? What relevant management programs have occurred? Whose history must be acknowledged? For example, tribes or local residents. Does the corridor include overlapping designations? Private land? Issues of encroachment or trespass? Developments such as campgrounds, boat launches, or parking lots? What's the visitor use like? What is the access for recreation or other uses? What species depend on the river? Is there grazing or mining? How is climate change affecting the area? Next, review the legislation. Know where the river's main stem and tributaries are. Familiarize yourself with the river's outstandingly remarkable values. These are its unique, rare, or exemplary values that are significant at a comparative regional or national scale. They may be designated in the legislation. The legislation may also provide specific guidance or provisions for management. Name other co-managing agencies. State why this river was designated. Identify any statutory withdrawals or protection from other uses, such as mining or grazing. Once your river is designated, contact your agency's Wild and Scenic Rivers System Program Manager. Outreach to affected landowners. Contact tribes, local governments, and potential stewardship organizations to share timelines and next steps. Post interim boundaries if uses will change. Consider needed signage to raise awareness. Evaluate proposed resources, projects, access, and users for compatibility. Establish a baseline from current conditions. Create a monitoring plan to pinpoint short-term priorities and needs. Identify what needs to be updated through the Comprehensive River Management Plan process. You now have some basic familiarity with wild and scenic rivers and know how best to prepare for designation on your unit. The next video will help you figure out your internal capacity, training, and education needs. For more information, check out these links.
Thanks all for indulging us to share that video. We're hoping that you can use it and share it with your friends and others who are just learning about wild and scenic rivers. It's really meant to be a bite-sized introduction, as Steve said, when folks are just getting started on wild and scenic. We want to whet your appetite for all of the other videos that are in this series. You saw that at the end there's a series of videos. So we're going to run through them with some Q&A. That was video 1. Video 2 is on assessing your internal capacity. So when you've got a newly designated wild and scenic river, or you're a new staff person on a wild and scenic river, this is one of the first items you want to address. So our question is, who should be at the table from your unit, from your wild and scenic river, your forest, your park, your refuge, or BLM lands? Who should be at the table to help identify river values? It could be roles or people or positions that you should be involved in developing river values. At minute 2:01, you can find a list of folks, including NEPA specialists, wilderness, wild scenic specialists, cultural program specialists, and planners. Those are the folks that we shared in the video at video 2:01. On to Lucy.
Okay, so the next video in the series, it talks about the pre-planning piece for CRMP. So this addresses pre-planning, which is helping you put your CRMP together, which is an essential tool for river management. And the question, this one is a little lower stakes, and maybe you heard our friend Lisa say this in the video already. When should a CRMP be completed? It's a number of years. 3 years.
Next up, we're going to move to another video in the series, or at least mention it, and this deals with user capacities. And this video provides an overview of one of the more complex and challenging aspects of developing and implementing a comprehensive river management plan, or CRMP. It is a statutory requirement under the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act for those CRMPs to be completed within 3 years of designation, and for CRMPs to address user capacities. That term usually refers to the maximum amount and type of public use that a river can accommodate without degrading its river values. Addressing user capacities typically involves developing indicators, thresholds, and potential management actions associated with use in order to, again, protect river values. With that in mind, what are some examples of the type of information needed to complete a user capacities analysis? Based on that description, anything come to mind for you of information you would need to complete this part of a river management plan? A number of answers include baseline and desired conditions for river values, currently available user data on number of users or categories and seasonality of use, impacts of use on river values, which are often highlighted in recreation studies. A preview of another video in our video series we've talked about river values several times already, so now we can dive in a little bit further.
Wild and scenic rivers have river-related values that need to be identified and protected. We are going to review some tips to get your planning team started. This video takes a closer look at some key terms and best practices for determining your river's values. These river-related values are the free-flowing condition, water quality, and one or more outstandingly remarkable values, or ORVs. So, what does this mean? The free-flowing condition is a natural condition without impoundments, diversions, straightening, riprapping, or other modifications. A river values report or assessment describes the existing condition, including baseline flow information, and any up or downstream dams, diversions, or other structures that could negatively affect flow. Water quality means the condition of the water, including chemical, physical, and biological characteristics. In assessing water quality, specialists define water-based attributes specific to the designated river. The team will document baseline conditions and any specific challenges river managers must address, such as temperature or turbidity, that do not conform to standards. In addition to looking at water quality and free flow, you'll also need to identify and confirm or establish, if not previously determined, the justification for the ORVs. Each designated river must have at least one ORV. These could include scenic, recreational, fish and wildlife, historic, or other values.
Okay, so we discussed the pre-planning for the CRMP, but the Comprehensive River Management Plan, like we mentioned, is a key component in managing a wild and scenic river that outlines the steps to protecting and enhancing all those river values that were just mentioned. So the question for the Comprehensive River Management Plan video is there a boundary already determined for your river? Yes or no? Any ways to figure it out? Okay, so at the around the minute mark of the CRMP video, you'll see that, you'll hear that establishing a boundary is the key component, and until the official boundaries are established, an interim boundary will be in effect, and it's up to you and your team to decide if that interim boundary, those guidelines from the act that will make that boundary, is enough to protect and enhance your river values, or if it's got to be altered a little. But interim boundary, and you can figure that out on the Federal Register.
Our next video in the series focuses on an overview of some of the environmental analysis associated with wild and scenic river planning and management activities. And so the question for you all is, does NEPA apply to the development of a comprehensive river management plan? All yes responses, all correct.
Section 7 of the Wild Scenic Rivers Act. So Section 7 project review is often called the teeth of the Wild Scenic Rivers Act. So your question, who knows what the intention of Section 7 is? The intention of Section 7 of the Wild Scenic Rivers Act is to keep certain rivers free flowing and protect the values of which it was designated from potentially harmful effects of water resources projects.
We want to encourage you to watch all the videos, what you need to know about your river, assessing your internal capacity, some CRMP pre-planning, number 4, user capacities, 5, river values, 6, about CRMPs, and 7, environmental analysis, 8, diving into Section 7, and 9, on climate change. And then we want to encourage you to invite your friends. We can share our little small, tiny Instagrammable reels to share some links to rivers.gov, but all of them are on YouTube right now at the River Management Society. There's a full series of all of the videos. Thank you all for joining us.